That we do, you get to learn new names. Dr. Rampile was one that we were all battling with, so this is the next hot spot. But definitely, our thanks to our analysts who've joined us. We had Dr. Somadoda Figeni join us a little bit earlier. We're now joined by Mashupye Masirumole, who is here to join us. How did I fare?
You got it right.
Did I get it right?
You got it
Brownie
right.
point for me. Nothing for you, Evan.
Thank you very much, Professor. Let me then start off with the first question. It's nice to see that stable and quiet and effective voting stations today. What are your first impressions of how we're voting and what this then means?
Look, I was just happy to realize that at least the IEC managed to get some of those situations under control, particularly in those hotspot area. But at the same time also, I mean, these elections, they are very important in terms of underscoring our evolution as democracy. I mean, today we are celebrating the 20 years of our democracy, and these elections cannot be more important. You know, they invoke a sense of nostalgia about what one felt then in 1994. So, you know, it's inevitable for one to really today feel proud to be a South African. That's my personal feeling. I feel
it with you. We feel a sense of pride, and freedom is what we celebrate today. I think in many ways South Africans tend to forget, because we get caught up sometimes in a bit of a quagmire of negativity. An interesting thing, what F.W. de Klerk said a little bit earlier that I thought was the outstanding thing in that interview. He spoke about how racial tension in South Africa is often increased in the media, and it's not the case on the ground. How are we then as the media responsible for building this stable democratic state?
As a media, you guys have got a critical role to play, because largely you are in a strategic position to influence public opinion, and also you are, to a very large extent, you are responsible for a sense of stability in the country, because largely people depend on you in terms of what they are doing or what they are supposed to do, and therefore you play such a critically important role as the media.
I'd like to bring in Dr. Figeni and talk about this, because for me it's so important what F.W. de Klerk spoke about. It's the fact that we have a media in South Africa that often harps on the negative, and by doing that also stokes a little bit of racial tension. Is he accurate when he says that, and what does that then mean in practice?
Well, not always. The media is a reflection of what the society is, and at the same time the media sometimes do stretch things to the other extreme, and they take on topics which may not be that important. Remember, when we spent almost 2 months debating the slaughtering of cow by Tony Yangeni when there were so many other problems.
Yeah.
So the media has played its vital role, but there's still room for improvement, and it is the largest room in the House.
Well, we've got an insert with Pansy Tlakula, who's the head of the IEC. Let's just listen back to where she was this morning and what she had to say.
Chair, you've just visited this area, and I'm sure you're still going to visit more of them. So what is your assessment? What have you observed?
Let me say that we came here to accompany the President to vote. I'm with Commissioner Judge Makanya. Our assessment is that everything is going well. The officials are managing the queues very well. The process is very efficient inside the voting station. This is a rural voting station, but the efficiency of our officials is very impressive, and the commitment. They've been here. The presiding officer tells me that they were here from 1 a.m. Setting up the station, ensuring that everything goes according to schedule. So we are happy in general. By about 8:30, 93% of our voting stations were open. So it looks like we're having a good election. Everything is on track. All our plans are working out. Even in areas where we had some problems of community protests, we are informed that our voting stations, even in those areas, are open. But we are going to have a press briefing at 11 o'clock where we will give the nation the state of affairs in all the voting stations in the country.
In this particular station, Chairman, we see the elderly coming in numbers. Does that show you confidence that the elderly embrace the democratic process?
It is actually very interesting. There is a queue of the elderly, and because we have, trained our staff in a way that they should accommodate the elderly. You can see that they have special arrangements for the elderly. They have put chairs for the elderly. They take them to the front of the queue. So we are very happy. And in fact, if you look at our voters' roll, more than 90% of people between the ages of 60 and 100 are on the voters' roll. So we are happy, and as the Electoral Commission would like to take this opportunity to thank all South Africans for heeding our call to go to the voting stations. It's early in the day. We're going to close at 9 o'clock, but we are making a special appeal to South Africans to ensure that they go now to the stations while it's still early, so that we avoid long queues at night, particularly in the rural areas where we have problems with lighting.
Where venues were destroyed and damaged by people setting them alight, were you able to put in contingencies? And does that account for this roughly 7% that you say we're not able to open in time earlier on today?
No, I think it's less than 7%, but what you have to know is that in an election, we always plan for contingencies. That's how it works, and anticipate the worst. So even in areas where our temporary infrastructure was burned down, we were able to get alternative venues. We're even able to look for other tents, and we have pitched them up. And that also accounts for the 7%, because we opened late in some of those voting stations, because we pay a premium on efficiency. We put our tents up last night, and in some areas those tents were burned down. So we had to go and source tents from the alternative sources that we had identified, and we had to pitch those tents this morning. And in those stations, we started a little bit late.
Sorry, are you too disappointed with the younger people's participation?
Yeah, but not, they did heed our call to register. We just had a gap in the 18 to 19-year-old age band. But if you look at age category 18 to 35, the numbers are quite impressive, and we're hoping that young people will go out in their numbers today. We are making a special appeal to them to go out to our voting stations to go and vote, because this is a very significant election in our history. It marks the 20th anniversary of our democracy, and that the right to vote is a right that many people sacrificed for, many people died for, and it's a right that we should never, ever as South Africans take for granted.
Chairperson, very quickly, I'm sorry. Integrity. When we see reports of electoral voting materials being found in party agents' homes, that people start asking questions. At this point, are you able to assure about the integrity of the election?
We assure the nation. We have to say that we have 22,263 voting stations. And it is only in one voting station where the incident that you're referring to took place. And as the Commission, once we became aware of that, we took action immediately. We quarantined the votes in question. 14 people had applied for special votes in that voting station. Only 2 had cast their special votes. So we quarantined those votes, we put them aside, we even replaced the staff that worked at that particular voting station. So we're satisfied that the process is credible, will be credible. I have to go. I have to go.
Thank you very much.
I have to go.
Well, that was Pansy Tlakula, the chair of the IEC. You're watching a rolling broadcast of Election 2014.